Welcome to Real Life Beyond Faith, where a formerly Christian, currently atheist couple takes a deep dive into the experience of life after deconversion. This is episode 20. I'm your host, Jenica Crail.
And I'm your host, Patron Credits. And this week we have a special guest. He's actually one of our patrons.
Rich Kemp.
Yeah. So we are going to interview him and talk about his background and his story. A little bit about his religion background and how he became an atheist.
Yeah, and what led him on that journey out of religion. It's pretty interesting to hear. He was in the Air Force, and that kind of was the starting point of his doubting, was going into the Air Force and interacting with other people within his unit or whatever. Whatever it's called. Anyway.
Goal units.
Yeah. But yeah, Rich is a really great friend of ours. We met him in person at ReasonCon and have gotten to know him very well, and he's a pretty awesome dude. So
through social media, we've gotten to know him pretty well through social media. He lives on the other end of the country, so
kind of.
Yeah.
A ways away. He's in Colorado. We're in Ohio. It's a little bit of a trek. But
yeah, so social media kind of makes it easy to communicate with people all over the place.
Yeah, and I love that about social media.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. Gives us the opportunity to meet some pretty awesome people. So
Yep.
Looking forward to this interview with Rich, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And that interview with Rich will be right after this break.
Hey, all you listeners, I'm Robert.
And I'm Amy from Secular Yakking.
And we just wanted to let you know that if you've got 30 minutes to kill,
then we're the podcast for you. We're just some old married couple who's been yakking at each other over the many years.
And we thought we should start making it so you can listen in on our yakking.
We dig past the mainstream and bring you the news that you may or may not have heard about.
We take a look at politics, religion, science, and pretty much anything we feel like yakking about and sharing it with you. And let us not forget our weekly Mr. Potter Award.
No, we're not professionals on anything we talk about, but we love to yak about stuff and give you our opinion on the matter.
So tune in at secularyakking.com or check out our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and anywhere good podcasts can be heard.
And who knows what craziness will happen.
Yeah, just like this.
Hi, this is Trav Mamone, host of the By Any Means podcast. Join me every week as I interview bloggers, podcasters, writers, and activists about the intersections of atheism, humanism, racial justice, feminism, LGBTQ rights, and other social issues. You can subscribe to the podcast through iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher, and you can read my blog at freethoughtblogs.com/byanymeans. And remember, that's bi spelled B-I. Come take a listen to the musings of a queer humanist because, hey, aren't we all a little bi-curious?
Hey there. If you like what we're doing and want to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/reallifebeyondfaith and become a patron for as little as $1 per episode. Your support is greatly appreciated and goes toward a podcast hosting site, equipment, time spent recording and editing, and our activism in our community and beyond. You'll also gain access to behind-the-scenes video content from our recording shenanigans. Another great way to support us is to give us a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher, or share our show on social media. You can find us at facebook.com/reallifebeyondfaith and Twitter at RLBFpod. And you can email us at reallifebeyondfaith@gmail.com. So today we have Rich Kemp, one of our patrons, on to talk a little bit about his story and what led him out of religion. And Rich has become a very close friend of mine and Patrick's, and we're looking forward to talking to him today. And we feel honored that he came on the show. Rich, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So you grew up religious, right?
Yeah, I was Methodist, I guess if you can call that Christian.
Was it like more on the liberal side, you mean?
More lukewarm, I guess, than anything. So, we would go to church, but it wouldn't be like, it didn't rule our lives, I suppose. There was we did the Sunday thing. I would go to Sunday school, and as we got older, I moved around a lot as a child, and eventually we settled and found a church and would go, and it was kind of just, I don't know, it was kind of like, you were supposed to believe, so that's what I did. I every now and then, you would mumble a prayer, to God or whatever, and I don't know, it just made you feel better. Or you would, bow your heads in prayer with a group, or at church you would, just kind of sing or follow along with everybody else. So not evangelical, I would say, but still, at least in the Christian realm.
Right.
And it just kind of stuck with you. I joined the military, and that was on my dog tags, just kind of Christian. And I didn't really ever think about changing it. So yeah, that's kind of how I grew up.
And how old were you when you joined the Air Force?
I was 19, and with the military, there's always just kind of like that underscore of, religion, Christianity kind of thing there. I never found it like so much required, but whenever you would do like a retirement ceremony or, a Christmas party or whatever, there would always be a chaplain there, and it would always end in, something to Jesus. But at, my early career, I never really thought anything of it, I guess.
So were you very involved then with anything that the chaplain was doing, or as far as religion goes, when you were in the Army?
Air Force.
Air Force.
Oh my
Patrick?
God, why do I keep saying Army?
So not super involved. When I went through basic training, it was one of those things where on Sundays, if you went to church, you weren't left behind to like clean, the areas of where everybody lived. So you would spend that hour or two or whatever away, kind of give a break from the intensity of people yelling at you and making you do things constantly. So I definitely did that. But once I got into my actual job, I just did the job. I spent my time learning to be a medic. I didn't really focus on a lot of religion, but it was still part of my life, I guess. Had a Bible, got married pretty young. We had a lot of friends. We would go to church with them periodically. When I moved to England, we had some friends that we'd definitely go to church with. And then that was a lot of like speaking in tongues, kind of that exuberant movement, I guess, that you would think would go along with it. And I always felt kind of just odd when I watched that stuff. It just made me feel kind of standoffish at that point.
So did you ever feel like you actually like really believed deep down, or was it more like, I'm just going to do what everyone else is doing and kind of hope that it's true?
That's a good question.
Or just doing it for like tradition's sake?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of, initially I never questioned it. It was kind of like, my parents brought this up, and it was like, well, this is real. This is the truth. You trust them, and don't really delve too deep into anything, even though if it didn't make sense. I found when I was kind of going to the Sunday school, when I was a little older, I had, just that kind of just guilt, that lust to guilt, because, you found a girl in school attractive, and so that you would that night I would, pray for forgiveness because, oh my gosh, that's not how it's supposed to be. I'd do something wrong and I would find myself, that night or the next day asking for forgiveness because, that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be this good person, never, I won't say never question, but there's the rules that are laid down that you're supposed to follow. And, by not following them, you're breaking something, I won't say covenant, but some agreement that, you're supposed to be a better person. And I didn't live up to that. So I would always try to like reset the day, I guess. And so, y'all would pray, beg for forgiveness, and then be like, okay, I feel better. And you could move on.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. Of all the things within religion, it seems to be sexuality ends up being the thing that causes the most guilt for so many people.
Yeah.
Like, even when you don't take most of your religion seriously, you still feel an immense amount of shame about something as natural as sex. It's just
Agreed.
It's unbelievable. Like when I made that post about people sharing things that negatively affected them regarding sex and religion, like that post just blew up.
Yeah, because it affects so many people.
Yeah, I posted it like maybe half an hour to an hour before we sat down to record.
Yeah.
And by the time we sat down to record, there were already just like probably over 50 comments at that point. It was crazy. And it's because so many people are affected by this whacked out notion that you shouldn't find someone sexually attractive unless you're fucking married to them. Makes no sense.
Right. Well, even just courting somebody, is still considered, you're supposed to be, pure of mind. It's the journey, not the destination, I guess. And that was kind of my problem with it, is because it was kind of a small town that we finally settled and I graduated at. And there were some, at the time, I felt there were very attractive girls in my high school. And, there was just that, like, I want to get to know them. I want to go out with them. And, of course, as a teenager, there's that, you're going through those hormonal changes. And, of course, let's see them naked. Let's, what's it like? And, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where that kind of guilt kind of fell into it. So I would find myself after every Sunday, and most of these girls were in my class. So I would, at the end of the day, be like, I don't mean to do this. I'm so sorry. It's, it's difficult and blah, blah, blah. So that was kind of like probably my biggest first stumbling block with religion. Just that whole, you're taught in school biologically that it's normal, but then you're taught every Sunday that it's not normal and it shouldn't be normal. And you need to like suppress these feelings and be this almost Ken doll when it comes to relationships and stuff.
Right. Yeah, you have to not have lust in your heart. Otherwise, it's adultery. If that person is not your spouse.
Yeah, which is really tough when you're a teenager, when you got all those hormones going through you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really confused me when Patrick and I were dating and then engaged. And I was thinking, so I'm not supposed to lust over him until say
that
our
ring is on your
vows.
finger.
Like, what the? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
just
crazy.
magically, all right, on this day at this time, everything's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Up
After the
until
preacher
then.
lets you say, I do. Yeah.
Right.
So it sounds like you kind of had doubts like all along, sort of. Like,
Well, more, think more confusion than
Okay.
doubts. I wasn't
So not
understanding.
not doubts,
and then
just kind of like this doesn't really make much sense.
right. So I was kind of confused on how there would be that dichotomy, I guess,
Mhm.
between, what is expected of you from the Bible and God and what's happening to you as a teenager.
Right.
So I kind of struggled with that a little bit for sure.
Okay, so what was it, would you say, that like really sparked the initial doubts and what like kind of led you down the path towards atheism or whatever you call yourself now? You can share that with us.
Oh, definitely atheist.
Attaboy.
So it was, aw. It was my first trip to Iraq. I went either 2006, 2007, I can't remember. And while we were there, as a medic, I was working in the field hospital that we had. We would take care of American injured troops. We would take care of civilian casualties, and we would take care of what they would consider the insurgents. So 3 different categories of people, all definitely deserving of care. But I would start having questions because, we're Christian, they're Muslim, but we're here fighting this war, and I'm using air quotes there, to fight back against the war on terrorism. And I'm watching women and children come through our hospital doors who, people lost hands, they lost feet, they lost eyesight, they were burned. It really didn't matter. And I could not reconciliate a loving God with the suffering that I was seeing. So I guess it was the question of evil that was kind of driving me towards becoming an atheist.
Right.
We had children as young as 5 years old coming in, missing hands, women just disfigured because of an explosion or whatever. I watched a probably 12, 13, 14-year-old child die because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time and ended up taking a bullet to the head.
Jeez.
So these things started me questioning, how can a God that's supposed to love all of mankind allow this stuff to happen? What really kind of tipped me over the edge is we had a person that deployed with us who, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the kind of divisions between the military. We have active duty, which are people that do the job all the time. We have, and then reservists and guard who, I'm not trying to belittle them, but more part-time. Mm-hmm. So he was a reservist that was coming in, which means he would kind of do his job on the weekends, and then they would like ask people to volunteer to deploy, and he volunteered to deploy. Well, one of the things he was doing was he was going to school to be a apologist. So he was constantly making these comments about how the Iraqi people were not following the right religion. They were going to go to hell, those kind of things. So with him constantly like doing that, and me already starting to question a little bit, just kind of pushed me out of Christianity altogether while I was there.
It's kind of ironic that someone who is more religious pushed you away from it.
Right. Well, the weird thing is he had a background on his laptop with a picture of his wife, and it said at the bottom, "I love my wife," like he needed a reminder. So,
wow.
Right?
It's
and
like
he was
because he wants to open
Sorry,
up his laptop and see that instead of, typing in a porn site.
Right.
Well,
that
yeah,
and be
over there it'd be
reminded.
hard to do, but maybe when he was home. But it was, and don't get me wrong, he was a nice guy, but it was that part of him that really took that stick and just pushed me over that ledge. Because it was the lack of compassion. It was the lack of caring about another human being, regardless of where they came from, that kind of really did it in for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only difference is what God you believe in.
Right.
Between you
Exactly.
and the Iraqis. I mean, obviously there's more differences, but ideologically, that's the main thing that's causing the division.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, I've heard from
and he would comment all the time
Okay.
that, they believe in the wrong God and, they're not doing it right and things like that. So,
Yeah. And when you look at the two religions, like when you stand back and look at them objectively, they look so similar. And yet one person can stand back and say, well, they were born in the wrong part of the world and learned the wrong religion. Sucks to be them. And it just all puts it in perspective, kind of.
Sorry. But that's kind of what started getting me thinking about it, because if Christianity is true, then why aren't they believing it? What is it about Islam that is so much better? And when I stepped back and took a look at it, that's exactly what I saw, was where you were born, that region that you lived in, who your parents were, what religion you were raised in. And honestly, when we were there with the interpreters that we had with us, dealing with the patients and whatever, no one cared. It was about that human compassion with another person that's hurting, that they appreciated. They understood we were caring for them, and that we were trying to make them better, trying to get them healthier. And the fact that this guy had the gall to judge these people because of where they were born, that was really my big catalyst right there, that just kind of set me over the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of despicable what religion makes us do when otherwise we would just be kind human beings. Like when you take it so seriously that you can sit back and judge a person and say that they're going to hell, and you know nothing about this person. It takes only religion to do that to you, I was just listening to a clip by Christopher Hitchens where he was talking about how religion corrupts good people. Like it takes a person who would otherwise do only good and makes them think and do horrible things. It kind of reminded me of that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So where did it go from there? Like once you started getting those thoughts in your head from your Air Force buddy, like how did your journey with religion go from there?
Actually, that's a really good question. So I felt like I had to believe something. So I ordered some books off Amazon. Obviously, Christianity wasn't right because we're hurting people. Islam wasn't right because, they were suffering because of it, or hurting people, depending on your point of view. So kind of looked around and I was like, well, what the hell else is left? And that's when I came across Buddhism. So I ordered Buddhism for Dummies.
That's a good place to start.
Kind of read through that, talked to my wife about it, and she's like, that's cool. And I'm like, all right, great. So
wait,
did some reading.
Where was she at this point?
Where was she?
Yeah, like religion-wise.
In her walk with faith or whatever, or non-faith.
So she is, I would say she's probably more of like a deist agnostic.
Gotcha.
even to today. She feels that there's maybe something bigger than us out there, but can't really explain it or give kind of a definition for it. They're just more than just this. So she was perfectly cool with me running down the Buddhism path. I did a lot of reading, started practicing meditation, which, by the way, love. Wish I could do it more. It's a very calming thing. So when you're stressed out, it's a good way to just recenter yourself and focus and move on.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of reading with that. I did when I got back, and we were living in San Antonio at the time. When I got back from there, I joined a local Buddhist group, did a lot of, weekly meditation groups, chatting, book reading, whatever. Almost like a book club, we'd read a little bit and discuss it and whatnot. But then they started getting very mystical about it and a lot of like magical stuff. And I'm like, I'm not buying that part. So continue to question what I was being presented. Wasn't until I moved from San Antonio to Colorado that I really kind of focused on atheism in general. This was 2011, and the only atheist podcast I could find was The Thinking Atheist. Downloaded not a lot of back catalog, but there was enough that it got me through my drive from San Antonio to Colorado, and have listened to Seth ever since. Probably one of my favorite podcasters. And listening to him, and this was back before he actually came out as Seth. He at that time he was the Thinking Atheist.
Right.
So he kind of made it okay listening to him to that word atheist.
He was my first too.
Yeah.
Look at Seth popping our podcast cherries.
Right. Yeah, no, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Very calm, very well-spoken. And it's just, I don't know. There's just something about listening to him that just kind of relaxes me. And the day that he came out and was like, this is my name, this is who I am, I'm not hiding anymore, was like a turning point for me. That's when I was like, that's it. That's what I am. I did deploy.
Were you
back
there
to Iraq
when
more time.
when he did that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Were you there at that conference?
Unfortunately, no, I wasn't.
Okay.
I did listen to it on his podcast.
Right.
But I did deploy again. I went to Iraq again. This time I was an atheist, but it was kind of like one of those things like, I'm not going to say that to anybody because I don't want to stir the pot, I guess.
But you didn't wear the dog tags?
So the dog tags changed to religion non-denominational. Then I deployed to Afghanistan after that, and we were put in a very small group, and we worked with a very small group of Afghani army medics, where we were working to try and get them a little more efficient, whether it's through teaching them how to do things or building a file system or whatever. So we were hands-on in the Afghani army camp. It was like 5 or 6 of us, and I had to basically hold it very close to my chest about my beliefs, because if they had found out I was atheist, they probably would never talk to me again on the best side. On the worst side, who knows what would have happened.
Wow.
Right.
When they would ask me, and like, you're here working on a Sunday, why are you not in church? I'm like, well, because the Air Force is making me be here. I don't have a choice. And so a lot of times I could give those easy answers, but, internally I was like, God, if I could just tell you, it would be so much easier.
Right.
And it wasn't until I finally retired that I kind of really embraced that label. I'm not a super big activist, but I'm not going to shy away from what I am. There's a lot of people here where I'm living that if they would pay attention to my Facebook would probably go, oh, I get it now. But when I never really brought it up per se while I was still in the military. I would definitely make a point at it. We had a guy who was like, oh, we could offer that religious advice for them. I'm like, that would probably get you in trouble. So, I would interject where I could, but I still kind of kept it very quiet. Now that I'm out, I don't care.
Right.
Let's run with it. If you have a question, ask me.
Yeah.
But
Plus, it's safer now.
I don't have it anymore. Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's not going to be a lot of that pushback that I've heard of a lot of people having to go through with it.
Right. So you're out. What I guess urges, like what gives you the urge to be out and to be somewhat vocal about it?
I guess there's just a lot of I just don't care.
Like you don't care what people think of you, and it's not going to make a big impact on your life type deal, so you might as well talk about it.
Pretty much. I mean, at work, I'm not going to be like, I had a patient the other day go, oh, will you pray for my granddaughter? I'm like, sure. I'm not going to rock the boat about it. It's not a big deal. But, because if I were to be like, well, I'm an atheist and haha, that's bullshit. That
would be a little insensitive.
Yeah, a little bit.
Exactly. So that kind of would have ruined her day.
Yeah.
So there's a time and a place for it.
Exactly.
So I try to just feel out each situation as I can. We have local groups. I try to go to them when I can, but at work, I don't hide it, but I don't present it, I guess is a good way to put it.
Right.
There's a lot of where I live is a very red area, very religious area. So I don't want to say I'm still hiding, but it's just I'm very cautious, I guess, about who I share with because it could have a negative impact on where I work.
Yeah. With me,
possibly my job. So I do kind of keep it a little bit quiet, but
right. Which is sad.
I'm out to some friends. I'm out to all my family knows. It's all over Facebook. I don't hide that, but
how does your family take it?
Oh, they don't care.
Good.
Are they still religious at all?
Well, my mom says that she's Wiccan.
Huh.
Okay.
And she used to be Methodist too?
Yeah, right. Yeah, the whole family was Methodist.
Huh.
But she's moved back to more of a earthy kind of vibe, feel, religion, whatever you want to call it.
Which, in honesty, makes more sense than Christianity or Islam, but is still kind of like wooey.
Exactly. Yeah, there's that side to it. So I just kind of just roll my eyes with it and be like, whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's not hurting anything.
Right. I came out to her probably on my way to ReasonCon.
This past year?
Because she's like, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to a conference. What's the conference about? It's an atheist conference. She's like, oh, I thought you were Buddhist. No, not anymore. My dad and I, it's just, religion's just not a topic we really talk about. So it's just never really come up. The wife knows all my kids are atheists. Ex-wife still religious, but kind of doesn't care. So, it's just, that's where we're at now, I suppose.
It's a nice place to be in where you can just be open and honest about who you are, and it doesn't cause much strife amongst the
Right.
family.
That is true.
Patrick and I are kind of in that position. I mean, it upsets, I think, his family probably more than mine, because they believe a bit more strongly than my family does at this point.
Yeah.
And that's changed a lot over the years. But yeah, it's good to be in a position where you can just be honest about who you are. And I don't take it for granted for a minute, because there are so many people that I know, and a lot of people even that I don't know, who I've just heard their stories, where they either are open and face horrible consequences for being open, or they just can't be open at all about it and have to like hide in the closet, which is also very stressful.
And
So
I
it's
mean,
nice for those of us who are privileged in that way.
Yeah. And I mean, we're honest and fairly open with them. We just don't really talk about it. Like, we're still family. We're still good as a family. Like, a lot of people will disown their children or their spouse or, their parents or whatever. Well, maybe not so much parents, but my point is a lot of families disown other family members because of what they believe. And we're still lucky enough to not have that situation. I mean, we still have a little bit of stress there, but it's not nearly as bad as it could be.
Right. And it sounds like it's even less stressful within your family context, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Right. And even my sister's an atheist.
God, doesn't it
So-
feel good to be surrounded by atheists?
Right?
I should
And
make
to
that a
sleep in
meme.
on Sundays.
God, doesn't it feel good?
Bumper sticker.
Yeah. So how long, all in all, do you think that process took for you?
Oh, geez. So I think I deployed to about 2006 and finally admitted to myself about 2011. So about 5 years.
So it's just like kind of a slow process of doubting and then looking into other things and then finally realizing, it's all just bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all bullshit.
So what got you involved in the atheist community?
Probably Seth, honestly. I listened to his podcast. From there I found a ton of other podcasts to the point where I'm like, I have to decide what I'm going to listen to that week or I'm going to get behind. I listen where I can. I donate where I can. I support where I can. Yeah. And it's nice to meet like-minded people and, whether it's through a Facebook page or website or whatnot, I've made some really good friends online, including both of you, that, it's just nice to have that commonality, I guess, where you don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or being offensive or,
Right.
You don't believe the same way or
Right.
whatever.
People you can be real with
Yeah.
and relate to.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Exactly.
actually got to meet you at ReasonCon briefly.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
fun.
Very briefly.
I know. Like, we actually became close to you after the fact. It's like, damn it.
Yeah. We would have
Right?
known you better beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. But it was really cool to see you
well,
there,
there's-
which kind of spurred us on to talk more, I think. So
Yep,
that's good
that's
at least.
awesome.
And then the next time they have a ReasonCon, hopefully we can all go again and meet
Yeah.
up and
2
spend
years
more
though, right?
time. Huh?
They're switching
Yeah,
it
definitely.
every
Oh, yeah,
other
they're
year.
2 years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems
That
like it was
sucks.
so long ago.
Yeah, I know.
I was thinking,
Right?
oh, I bet there's going to be a new ReasonCon this year. And I'm like, oh, no, there was
It was
the last one was
6
in-
months ago.
yeah.
I know it hasn't
It
even
was
been a
in
year
April.
yet. It's crazy.
What the hell, man? It feels like it was an eternity ago. Oh, wow.
But even besides you two, I've made some very good friends, through different Facebook groups, and I mean, to the point where I consider some people my best friends, and it's all it's all been online. And honestly, I met quite a few of them at ReasonCon.
That's awesome.
No,
Yeah.
I knew them on Facebook beforehand, but I physically met them at ReasonCon. And I think that only made our friendship stronger.
Yeah.
And it's, it's just, I don't know, just awesome. I don't know. If it weren't for social media, I would probably be in a bubble. So
Yeah. Isn't
Same
that
here.
amazing? Because like sometimes I'll complain about technology, or you always hear people complaining about seeing people all over the place just staring at their phones. And to me, I think to myself, I wonder who they're connecting with on that little
Right.
device.
Yeah.
Because for me, I connect with people literally all over the world
Yeah,
on
it's
my
kinda
little
cool.
It's ridiculous.
phone as I'm walking through the grocery store and some old person is judging me. And I'm thinking, you don't know how much good I do on this little device. But isn't that the coolest thing ever? Like to actually develop real and meaningful relationships. And then when you meet the person in person, finally, it's like, oh, well, I already know you. This
Yeah.
isn't really meeting you. This is just like our first face to face.
And that's been especially
Right, and
helpful for
that's-
us because we moved to a new city where we didn't know anybody. So we had and made a bunch of new internet friends.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've gotten to meet a handful of them, and it's been kind of awesome.
Yeah. It's the nice thing about community
Yeah.
is that you've got this like whole group of people who you can rely on even when they're all the way across the world or all the way across the country.
And what I liked about it is I'm kind of an introvert. I'm not a good small talker. I'm very talkative with you guys right now because I've gotten to know you. But in the case of like one friend, I got to know her through a Facebook group, chatted, hit it off, not anything weird, just, became, and we've become even closer since meeting at ReasonCon because that face-to-face that we had was just so comfortable. You don't have to deal with that awkwardness of like, what do I say next? Or, this conversation not going anywhere. Even when we weren't talking, it was still comfortable. We just really hit it off. And there was a bunch of people that were there that were like that. We'd already interacted online. We kind of knew personality side of each other, not without the physical judging or react judging of how people are. So it didn't matter. We'd already gotten to know each other, so it was good. If I could go to more conferences, I would. If I could afford it,
Right.
I would go to every one. But
There aren't very
even if I sat
many
in a
conferences
corner-
out in Colorado, huh?
No, there's none. The last one I went to was probably about 4 years ago, and it was the Humanist Conference, American Humanist Association. It actually has Seth there.
Oh, nice.
And Hemet and Matt and, a lot of the big names. I had my daughter with me. She loves Seth to death. They chatted for a while, got pictures. And it was just, she loved it. I loved it. And like I said, even if I just stood in the corner, it's still a community for me. To know that there's like-minded people out there.
Yep.
It's the same. Everybody thinks kind of very similar, and it's a community. We might have our arguments, we might have our disagreements, but there's still that common bond. I don't know. It's just cool to kind of see that developed from just that internet presence, and then these physical people come together and can relate on that kind of level.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, I'm looking at the time and it looks like we have gone a little bit over, and that is perfectly okay because we have completely enjoyed having you on today. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Rich.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yep. You are awesome, and we appreciate you so much, and we appreciate your patronage and your friendship, and we can't wait till we get to see you again very soon, hopefully.
Yeah, me either.
All right. Take care.
It's time to thank our patrons. First, we would like to thank Christopher. He would like to plug Tri-State Freethinkers. It's a large group in our area. It covers Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. That's the Tri-State. And their 4 main categories of what they do are activism, community events, education, and social events. So there's a lot of different areas you can get into depending on what you feel inclined to do. If you want to help people, if you want to hang out with people, if you want to educate people, etc. They have events pretty much every day of the week, it seems. They have lots of events, lots of ways to get plugged in. And that's really how we've gotten plugged in to this city, being new a couple years ago. So they're a cool group of people.
The next top patron that we plug at the end of every episode is Thomas Smith of Serious Inquiries Only. It's a podcast where he delves into science, politics, religion, and more. Takes a critical thinking look at these topics and invites on guests who are experts in those areas and has some very intriguing conversations. So check out his podcast.
We would also like to thank Rich, who wants to plug Recovering from Religion. You can go to their website, recoveringfromreligion.org, and there's a couple other side projects associated with it. There's the Helpline Project, where you can call in, or you can even do an online chat now with a support person if you're struggling with doubts or leaving religion. Someone to talk to, someone to help you through it. And then there's also the Secular Therapy Project at seculartherapy.org. And if you need a professional to talk to, you can actually look up different therapists who are certified secular, who won't be pushing their religion onto you. And you can feel comfortable in the fact that you can go see someone and get real help without the veil of religion.
True that.
True that.
And this week, we would like to thank Marissa Alexa McCool for actually increasing her patronage to us.
Thanks, Riss.
Yay!
You are awesome.
We love you. Thank you so much. But also, you did not have to do that. What the hell?
Seriously.
We love you without your money. But we do very much appreciate that, of course. And she would like to plug a couple of things. First being her new book, Passing Cars, which we mentioned in last week's episode. And I actually have a copy of that book coming to me very soon. I think it's already in the mail. So I'm excited to read the whole thing. I've read 1 chapter, but I want to read the rest of it. And then we're going to pick an excerpt from that book, and we're going to have that be part of the show every week. Maybe we'll pick a few. The other thing that she would like to plug is her new podcast called We Too. And it's kind of branching off from the whole Me Too campaign. And it's just stories. I think it's weekly. She reads a news story from someone who has submitted a story of sexual assault or harassment or, whatever they've gone through that leads them to be part of the Me Too campaign. It's very interesting to listen to these stories and hear other people's perspectives and experiences and know that you are not alone. Thank you all so much for listening this week, and we'll catch you next time. But in the meantime,
keep it real.
I'm going to go to the potty. I'll be right back.
What?
Time out.
Pause now.
Take a drink.
Oh, I have been. Don't worry.
Patrick needs to pee.
Another time out.
Go for it. Hey, I already did while I was talking to you.
That is impressive.
Nice.
He's like chugging beer on the way. Oh my god.
Of course. Gotta refill it, right?